good people? What is going on? Thank you for tuning in. Michigan football at the voice of college football. I am one of your post-game hosts, Desmond, here with my partner, Dre. It is game week, the college football playoff, the second straight year in a row for the Michigan Wolverines. But before we get to it, please like and subscribe, share the video out to social media, and also join Mark's main channel, the voice of college football, right here on YouTube. And also join his Discord where you can talk not only college football, but also pro football 24/7, 365. Dre, how's it going, my friend?
Going well. It's been a long time coming. I think I hear a echo. Do you?
I do not.
Okay. Well, it's been a long time coming, and almost a month. And it's exciting. It's almost I was telling my father-in-law over the holiday weekend how you almost forget that there's still a playoffs to be played because of the long layover. Um, but it's here. I'm very excited about Michigan's chances not only to win Saturday, but to win the whole thing. So, and I think my fellow Michigan fans should be as well.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's been, a very, very, very long time since we've seen Michigan on the football field, and it has been a very long time, and we're still 3 days away. I mean, there's bowl games being played consistently and all the time. I think there's 3 or 4 on today. I think it was the same thing yesterday, 4 bowl games. So there's a lot of football being played, but yeah, you could easily, I don't want to say forget your team is playing because it's so exciting that your team's in the college football playoff, but it's just such a long layover, and but at the end of the day is what it is. So they are in Arizona. They are practicing. They're getting ready for the game. Early on, like, what are your thoughts of the game? What are you expecting to see? Who are you expecting to see? What are your thoughts this kind of early on of the game?
Well, um, it really hasn't changed the last time we really dove into it after Michigan clinched the conference championship game. In that, on paper, Michigan has no excuse to lose this game. Statistically, they are better almost every category, and I can go through a few of those. For example, I think player to player, they're better. Now, that's not to say that TCU should be a pushover. I mean, there's a reason why they are here. They are obviously flawed, but they are talented enough to get here. So, uh, but I'll continue my thoughts here shortly, Des. How about you take over for me, and I'm going to come right back.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it as well that I don't think there is a good reason that you could foresee Michigan losing the game other than it's just college football. Like that's the one potential thing that you would look at and say is a reason that they could lose a game. It's college football. Top teams lose all the time. They get upset all the time. That just kind of an is what it is type of thing. I mean, the stats show it. We've been on this channel, but also on Mark's main channel. He talks about it as well. And when you look at the top 25, you can almost, I think he said, just with clockwork, that half of the top 25 teams roughly lose every week. So it is something that is it does happen, right? So it's not as if TCU has zero chance. But if Michigan comes in, plays their game, executes the way that they want to, I just don't see, TCU coming in and being able to beat Michigan. I think they're the two things I think that could give TCU a victory. Number one is going to be the legs of Max Duggan, and number two is going to be, and I believe it's Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson, that receiver, just getting deep and Duggan putting the ball up, like pushing the ball down the field. I think those are the only two things that could potentially get TCU a win, and I think those things are for real. So I'm not saying that's just a far-fetched prayer, but though the path to victory for TCU is that, plus it would have to be a couple of mistakes whether it's a Donovan Edwards fumble or a JJ interception. You're going to need a couple of those, excuse me, as well. That those are the types of things that I think TCU. That's the only way that I believe they get a victory out of this game.
Yeah. So I'm still getting an echo here. That's so weird. Um, Continue, Des. While I figure it out. Apologies, people.
I actually don't hear an echo, but
People do, yeah.
another thing that I saw that was interesting. Obviously they're practicing in Arizona, and a lot of pictures and speculation, things of that nature are coming out. But one of the things that I saw that I was extremely encouraged by was I saw a picture of Mike Morris, and he did not have a knee brace on, and it was it seemed like a relatively light practice. It didn't seem like they weren't in full pads. I'll put it out that way. But nonetheless, based on his injury, I mean, and to be frank, I don't know exactly what that injury was, but nonetheless, I mean, Mike Morris not being in any type of knee brace or anything like that was definitely promising, because what that signals to me is he's ready to rock and roll with no limitations, because for a player who's coming off an injury like that, he doesn't get to decide if he needs a brace or not. That is a training staff type of decision. And the fact that he didn't have one on, to me, shows that he's ready to rock, and he is healthy going into this game, which is big, because you need that guy to be playing at his best. When it comes to these last two games, especially this game, but even moving into, if you do end up winning this game, potentially playing a Georgia team that likes to run the football, or, even an Ohio State team. I don't think that's something you can go into that game without, all of your players, your game breakers, etc. I don't think that's a game you can, go into and just think that you can be not full force and are just going to win that game.
Yeah. Um, I do agree with you there. I think Mike Morris is huge. His leadership, his ability, obviously. I think Donovan Edwards, he has a softer cast on, so that's good. Um, Look, they're never going to replace Blake Horn. I mean, him being gone for the year is monumental. And there's no way they're going to be able to. There's no way to look past that, right? But even that being so, they have what it takes to get this thing done. And by thing, I mean win the whole thing, the championship. In terms of TCU, here's just to ask yourself: if you were a TCU fan, how many things have to go right for you compared to how many things have to go right for Michigan to win? And I would say far more things have to go right for TCU to win this game than for Michigan. Michigan can win this game very boring, and should be able to do it relatively simple by taking care of the football, not turning over, and not giving up a lot of explosive plays for TCU. I would say for TCU, they need to be able to hit those splash plays, right? They need to be able to find ways to get off the field and not just get death by 1,000 cuts by the Michigan offense, right? Especially because they're running the football. You have to find ways to get Michigan behind schedule, to put JJ in uncomfortable situations, right? That's their best chance. And I'm just not sure if they have what it takes to do that. Maybe a couple plays here and there. I absolutely expect them to come out energetic. But in terms of them, doing it on a consistent basis, I'm just not sure they're going to be able to do that. I think the Michigan offensive line is just too dominant for that to happen.
I mean, it's yes. I think a lot more needs to go well for TCU, but what I also think too is, it seems like you're focusing a lot on the Michigan offense, which I agree. But also too, as good as that Michigan defense is, I don't think they have played against a quarterback with the skill set of Max Duggan, and I think it's it does become a backbreaker when you get a deep, when you get a team in a 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8, and quarterback drops back to throw, no one's open, and he scrambles for 9-10 yards and gets a first down. Like, that is backbreaking stuff. It only needs to happen a couple times before guys start to just not get as deep in their drops, or just, they're doing their assignment but their eyes are in the wrong place, like those types of things. And obviously a lot needs to happen before then, but I think that definitely changes things a bit when it comes to when it comes to playing defense. If I'm TCU, my thought would be defensively, like, don't give up the big play. Like, we got to make Michigan earn it the entire way. Like, we can't give up. I'm sure they've watched a lot of Ohio State film. We can't give up 75-yard runs. Like, we cannot do that and
Yeah,
think
but
that
that's
you're
an
gonna
anomaly.
to win. You said what?
That's an anomaly. I saw that.
That against Ohio State, yes, but we've seen Blake Corum, pop up for 50, 60-yard runs. We've seen Donovan Edwards do it. Like, I mean, it's not that much of an anomaly. It's actually not. I mean, you
Well,
can go through the games where we've had, 40 plus yard run games. It's been more often than not that it happens.
I'm not saying that. It's obvious that the Michigan offense has the ability to hit you with a home run. Rather, can you mute your side, Des? I can hear my echo. Um, Rather, I believe it's. I think the bulk of the game is Michigan just wearing you down, and then eventually they can hit you with a home run here and there. I think what made Blake special, however, was that he could hit that home run at any point in time, just the threat of it. But for the most part, it's what, 3.5, 4 yards per carry. We talked about it when we saw it live. There, it's like what kept Illinois in the game defensively was the fact that Michigan was not able to run nearly as effective on first down. Right, they were being put in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, sometimes 2nd and 13 situations by having some tackles for loss. Right, a loss of gain essentially. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I saw something the TCU head coach said something about they feel very confident about their understanding of the Michigan offense and being able to have a game plan to combat that. I'll be interested to see what that is. I would highly advise them not to do what Ohio State did and totally load the box. But I will love it in the game because um, I know that we can take advantage of that with guys like Cornelius Johnson. I'm glad to say that now. I anticipate Roman Wilson will play in the game. Shoemaker, all those guys, Colton, Loveland, as well. We will not be able to take advantage of that. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just one of those games where it's just, yeah, you have the spirited leader and good player in Max Duggan, right? I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's not Tim Tebow, right? He's not. And I know that's a. I
Dude,
know.
really? Like, you literally go to that?
I
Like,
know.
he's
I'm just
not Tim
saying.
Tebow. Okay, yes, we all agree he's not the greatest college football quarterback ever. Like, I think we all can understand that.
I know. I guess I just like he reminds me of the mo of a Tim Tebow in that he's not a great passer. He is very mobile. He's one of those spirited guys that I think he leads his team on the field. I think emotionally they feed off his energy, very similar to how Florida will feed off Tebow. That's what I mean. He's like the Tim Tebow type mold to me, right? Now, does he have the accolades of Tim Tebow? Of course not. All right, I'm not saying that, but I I just feel like he has that type of effect for them. Could you at least agree with me with that?
uh, sure. I mean, yeah.
Okay,
I don't know. Like, that's a you're
stretch. Is
sure.
it a stretch?
That's what I'll say is
It's a
sure.
stretch. It's a stretch. Just say it's a stretch.
It's a stretch to use that guy with that comparison. I think there is some of with Duggan. There's a scrappiness to him. I don't know, and I don't think he's the athlete that Tebow was. It's probably a bit of a stretch, but I do understand the comparison.
Okay, good, good. That's not totally. I just from an emotional standpoint, I just when you watch him play, and one thing really sticks out is the Big 12 championship game, and how he was galvanizing that team, especially down the stretch, and really leading them. It seemed like back to for a victory. He's bloody, he's beat up, he's exhausted, and he just carried that team. And it reminded me that grittiness that he showed and the impact it had on his team and also on the field and winning. It reminded me of like how a Tebow effect would have, right? It's just he's not this prolific, incredible passer. He can throw it. I'm not saying he can't throw the football. Um, but he's not this incredible prolific passer. But he just kind of, I mean, the guy lost his job at one point at TCU, so he's had quite the story. Um, and by all means, he has the ability as well as a guy like Quentin Johnson in the running game. They can put up points on this Michigan defense. And it's possible in the first half they may score a couple points here and there. Um, but what gives me confidence, I think will also give a lot of other Michigan fans confidence, is the incredible second half adjustments that Jesse Minter makes. I believe whatever TCU shows in the first half that is successful, Jesse Minter will find the solution to at least neutralize their biggest threat going into the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I think his track record just speaks for itself. I really don't think that's any conjecture. I don't think that's any prediction. Like, I mean, that is legitimately what Jesse Minter has done the past, goodness gracious, what's it been, 6, 7 games? Where it's just, you look at the second half and points are nil. Maybe three. I think I gave up three in the second half to Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially, it's been second half shutouts again and again and again. So he's done a terrific job. And if I'm TCU and I am obviously looking at those types of trends, I'm throwing the ball down the field in the first half. Like, I'm doing whatever I can to, if I can get, whether it's a cheap PI or, a 50-50 ball and Quentin Johnson can win it. That's going to be it's just points are just at a premium when it comes to playing, Michigan's defense. They've been terrific. So you're definitely going to want to do all you can to score quickly and really get the ball, down the field in a hurry, because the time's ticking. Essentially, it's crazy to think it, but it's almost like the first half you're on a 2-minute drill, because as soon as you get to halftime, it's like, yeah, man, that, unless we're gonna literally come in here and scheme up something, big, you're gonna be in some trouble. That Minter's done a terrific job when it comes to, just his adjustments at halftime. I mean, Michigan has just been just so dominant on defense in the second half of these last, like I said, 6 or 7 games. It's yeah, man, it's been impressive, to say the least.
Uh, yeah, I agree with you there, and just so maybe you could share with the people, are you up in the UP for the New Year?
I am not in the UP. I am close. I'm in Harbor Springs right now, visiting family. My in-laws live here. And we actually just got back from sledding. So shout out to the Pond Hill Farm. They had a pretty cool setup. It was like sledding. They had sleds you could just use for free. So we, took the kids, did all that. And then they had, drinks you could get, wine, beer. They had kind of the brick oven pizza, all that good stuff. So yeah, it was a good time. We are undecided on where New Year's Eve is going to be. Potentially could be here. We could be back home. Not quite sure yet. We're still kind of, up in the air with it. So, but yeah, I am up in Harbor Springs.
Yeah, as you guys know, me and Des are really cool, and I've been invited up there, and I think I recognize the structure of the house at the top. That's why I
You
asked.
have actually been up here.
That's what I said. Yeah. I've been there.
No, you
So
said you were invited. You were invited, and then
no,
you
right.
also you
Yes.
came as well.
I came and I was there, and it is really nice there. That was during the summer, but I'm sure it's really nice in the winter as well, but just a lot colder. um, but we talked about Michigan's offense and what or at least I did earlier, or what they should be able to do. Uh, but defensively, you mentioned earlier, Des, that Mike Morris being back, and one of the things that I think it's important to note is that I actually don't need high number sack. I don't need high sack numbers in this game from Mike Ojabo, or yeah, I think that's his name.
Ojabo?
Anomi, excuse me, Anomi. Um, you know, uh, uh, Mason Graham, none of those guys. What I need is contain. I do not want to see Max Duggan breaking big time runs. I think it is imperative that everybody in that front seven is on the same page of stay in your run fits, stay contained, don't do too much. And if they do that, Max Duggan should not be able to just break them down. Look, he's mobile. He's not incredibly athletic. Um, this Michigan defense is definitely way more athletic than that Kansas State defense. I watched that Big 12 game and I couldn't believe what Max Duggan was doing to them. I will be highly disappointed if they're not able to contain his legs as much. For God's sakes, this is not Lamar Jackson, okay? So um, that's one thing defensively I think is very critical. And then defensively, look, I would actually prefer Will Johnson on Quentin Johnson as opposed to DJ Turner. DJ Turner at times has struggled with the bigger receivers. Um, so I just, or at least if you're going to have DJ Turner there, have RJ Moulton, some safety kind of shade over the top, very similar to what you did in the second half versus Marvin Harrison Jr. Just make sure don't let the big fella beat you. He's their best receiver by a mile. So just don't let him beat you. And you should be fine.
Yeah, I mean it's a tall task though because I don't think that you can do everything that you want to do and also keep essentially two defenders dedicated to Quentin Johnson every snap. Like I don't think you can do every something's got to give. I guess I'll put it that way, right? So Michigan will play two high safeties at times. They will roll a safety down, at other times. Um, but some of the times it's going to have to be DJ Turner or Will Johnson. Just you got to look. It's 1-on-1. Like you got to win. And maybe the ball doesn't go to Quentin Johnson on some of those snaps, but maybe it does, and you just got to win, man. Like that. Like this is the part of when it comes to game planning and just big time football, like great against great. Like you've got to be great. You've got to win against their guy. So yes, while I do agree, like you should have attention and know exactly where Quentin Johnson is on the field, those type of things. But sometimes it's just man, you got to win. Like DJ Turner, you want to be a first round corner drafted in the NFL, right? This is going to be a great game to put to show that film to NFL talent evaluators to say, look, forget about however much you think I weigh, if it's too light, whatever, blah blah blah.
NFL
Here's what
talent
I did
caliber.
against Quentin Johnson.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just got to win.
yeah. I mean, you want to have that film versus NFL caliber receiver. Let's be honest here. There's not a ton of NFL caliber receivers in the Big Ten. Okay, on most Saturdays, almost it's just the truth, right? So, um, it's just one of those things where, hey, this is one of your chance to really show what you can do. Can you handle? There's not a ton of 6'4" starting receivers in the NFL, but it's still, this guy is going to play on Sundays. You want to prove that you have the size, the hip mobility, the reaction, to deal with that. So I'm totally with you there. Um, and it in on offense. I mean, what if this is like the real coming out party for JJ McCarthy? Like, what if the Ohio State game was like the launching point for him? Like could that be? Possibly. Um, yeah, I still think that there's a running rate for JJ. I still think there is a a couple levels that he still can ascend to get to, where he not only is just a cog in the machine for this Michigan offense, but he's what drives it. Not just because he's a quarterback, but literally he is like the key player. I think the last 2 years you probably would have said at one point Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum were the cogs in the machine. This year probably would have been Blake Corum and then Donovan Networks and then JJ. Right now, I mean, it could just be JJ kind of really showing himself. This is an opportunity in front of everybody, national TV, that hey, he's a ride and maybe he can be a Heisman Trophy favorite going to next year. That's the kind of impact of having a great playoff run can have for you.
It would be exciting to see. To be honest, I think what you just described, I don't think Jim Harbaugh wants any part of that.
Sure.
Just to be honest, to me, like, I feel like Jim Harbaugh is where Nick Saban was in about like 2011, 2012, where it was almost like, I mean, if I can play with 10 guys on offense and just take the quarterback off of the field, like, I don't want the quarterback impacting the game almost at all. Like, I want 10% of the quarterback impact to get, like, that's just, that's how he operated, and that's how Jim's operated to a certain extent. He has opened it up, a bit these last couple years. But I think my thought is, if you're a coach coaching that way and that's your strategy, you just have so much faith in your front five guys that you just know, like, we can move people consistently, and that is the safest way to win a football game, is just to be able to do that. Because if you're successful at running the ball and you can play defense, I mean, even if you can play a little bit of defense, but you can run the ball really well, you can win 80-90% of your game. So I do understand it, but I just think that's so far from where Jim Harbaugh wants to be when it comes to this game on Saturday and the national championship. I don't think he is as much faith as I think he does actually have in JJ. I don't think he wants any part of what you just described. I don't think he wants any part of that.
Hey, history is heavily favored your side, so I understand. Can we start this question by Adrian Robertson? Who's better, TCU or Ohio State? I want to address that. Good question, Adrian. I think
So let's do this. So how about you give your answer of who you think is better, and then also give your answer of who do you think would win if they went head to head? Because I think those may be different answers, maybe. But I'm
uh,
interested in that.
right, all right, okay. Well, my answer is actually the same. I think from a talent standpoint, I still think Ohio State is the better team. I just think if you just break, especially if you go from a recruiting standpoint to the players on campus, Ohio State is the more talented football team. Keyword talented. On the field, I'll have to pull the statistics, but I'll be willing to bet that Ohio State probably has the better statistics, um, probably both offensively and defensively. So I actually go with Ohio State on a head-to-head matchup. I know what Michigan did to Ohio State was delightful. It was embarrassing for them, but I don't misconstrue this. Like I didn't want Ohio State in because I didn't believe they deserved to be in. But are they probably the true? Are they the fourth best team in the country? No, they probably are the third best team in the country. They probably are. You could debate if Bama could go back and forth with them, maybe, but Alabama will losing 2 games. You really kind of lose that argument after a while. So, Ohio State probably is the third best team in the country, right? And I will put them over TCU. So yeah, I think neutral field. Yeah, I will pick the Buckeyes over TCU. And guess what? It's not outside the realm. Crazy things happen. That could be a national title game. It could. I mean, technically, as we speak. I don't think so, but that's how I see it.
I'm actually flip flopped. I'm actually the
Talk,
opposite of
talk.
that, because to me, so the way I took it is, who is the better football team? And to me, that's about more than just stars. That's about more than just, talent on the roster. It's about how do we play together, and especially defensively. Like, Ohio State fans can tell me all they want how much better this defense is than that one that got 50 something dropped on them by Alabama in 2020. I don't think it's that much better, to be quite frank. I don't think their corners are better. I don't think their safeties are better. I think they are better up front, but they can tell me that all day, but when you can't get stops when you need them, that's something that I like. What are we doing? And I see a quarterback in C.J. Stroud who is as talented as they come, but is also for whatever reason either coached to or just refuses to ever run the ball when time is running out on that play clock in his head. So you could tell me how it whatever the problem is there, but it's a problem. Like if because I've watched a couple of the Ohio State streams with on the Voice of College Football, and they are upset about it consistently. Like he never runs, and look, C.J. Stroud's not he's not Tim Tebow as far as physicality, but the guy's like 6'3", 6'4", 200 something pounds. Like he's not rail thin. He's not big, but he's not rail thin to where you can't run for 5 yards, slide, and you don't get hit, and we're all good. We're running another play. So I just don't. And honestly, for as well as Ryan Day has done in his tenure as the Ohio State head coach, obviously I know the last 2 years he's lost to Michigan, but he has been in a national championship. He's made the playoff every year except last year, I think. I mean, he's
Third base, baby.
sure, whatever. But nonetheless, like he's been there. But what I also have questions and issues about is his pass happiness. And a lot of offensive coordinators and play callers do it where they have a quarterback who is high level, can play the position at a really high level at times, that they just fall in love with. Just, you know what, let's just keep on flinging it. Forget about I got Travion Henderson, and obviously I know he's hurt, been hurt recently, but just overall, I know I got Travion Henderson. Shoot, even the backup's backup in that Maryland game. This kid has had no meaningful snaps in the season, and reels off for what, 150, 200 yards, something like. I mean, had an amazing game, and he gets, if I'm not mistaken, 0 touches against Michigan. But just in general, it seems to be clear you have a lot of talent in your running back room, and we don't seem to ever feature that talent. So there are some things that I have concerns about, and I think TCU has done a terrific job of really almost playing up to, you know what I mean, like they're past their talent level. You know what I mean? Whereas I look at Ohio State, and I mean, you could make an argument they played below their talent level. So for me, I'm going with TCU.
I understand that. And I mentioned earlier that's frustrating. When you were talking about why CJ won't take off a run. For one, I mean, it's not frustrating as a Michigan fan because I love it, especially against us. No, keep doing the stupid thing. I want to clarify that. Misheard that. However, in general, when you see quarterbacks that do that, it's like I much rather you always have the mentality. I want every play to be positive yards. So once you go through your progressions, you don't see anything. Just take off. I don't care if it's 3 or 4 yards and you slide. I always want you moving forward. If you don't see anything, 1, 2, 3, all right, bam, go. Most of the time, Des is always going to be there. It's almost always going to be there. Hell, even if you have a guy who's spying you, it's rare that a guy who's going to spy you is going to get you before you get a couple yards, right? The
Well, think
spy.
think about this. Think about this real quick. I want to interrupt you real
Go
quick,
ahead.
right? So a linebacker's depth in general is anywhere between like 4 to 5 yards,
Yeah.
right? At the snap of the ball. And then on a pass play, he's going to drop anywhere between another 5 to 10 yards. Now, I know the quarterback drops back a bit too, right? But
Right.
I mean, the linebacker in general is going to be bare minimum 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage before, you know what I mean? Like he's got to get to 10 yards before you get to 7. Like it just, yes, that drives me nuts. But sorry, continue.
No, it's just like it's a very simple concept. It's like, and then also he has to make the tackle too. I mean, it's very tough. I mean, look, we've seen Aaron Rodgers, who is, not incredibly fast, but for years, especially in his prime, he was famous for like, okay, bam, bam, bam. All right, I'm taking off. And I'm going to get 5 to 6 yards if I when I decide to either slide or get out of bounds. I mean, then if you're the line the and I'm saying this, mind you, 'cause I want JJ to do that as well, right? I want JJ to make his progressions and hey, not there, let's go, right? Take off. You're fast, you're athletic. Let's get some positive yards and get down, protect yourself. Because here's the thing, Des, if you do that enough times, eventually that linebacker's going to have it back in their mind, and then maybe they don't drop back as far. They don't get as far back in their drop, right? Then that opens up. Opens up that dig route or that route over the middle to your tight end or receiver because that linebacker doesn't have as much depth that you kind of get throw it right over their head. You know what I'm saying? So it's all relevant. It's all relevant. So that hopefully that is the next step in JJ's development is not being too indecisive. Because I will say I think one trend for Michigan quarterbacks under Jim Harbaugh, and for years there's me and you would talk about this, and this goes back to the Pep Hamilton days when he had this, had was running the offense, and we were talking about how maybe why some of the Michigan quarterbacks are struggling is because the offense is just too complicated, too complex, right? And they're thinking too much. And and that's probably because Harbaugh, puts a lot of stress on you to take care of the football, right? So you can't just be as free as you probably want to be. And I just think it's imperative for for JJ to continue to ascend to wherever he's going to ascend to, that he kind of finds that well balanced, play free, right? Trust what you see, trust what you see, and live with it, and live with it.
Yeah, well, and because I think even something like 50 to 60 rushing yards in a game, for JJ, and yeah, maybe there's a couple chunk plays in there of 10, 15 yards, but even if it's just, hey, he scrambles for 7, but it's a first down on 3rd and 5, or on
Hmm.
second and 10, he scrambles for 5 yards, gets down, slides. Now we're in a manageable 3rd and 5. Quick hitch route, we're good to go. Like we're just, you know what I mean? Like just to, like you said, yes, positive plays every single play. Like that's the goal. And yeah, if you could do that, like it's, to me, it's better to run for 3 yards as a quarterback than to try to wait for that, double, triple move that is taking, 4 or 5 seconds to, to develop, where essentially you end up getting strip sacked and you lose the ball, blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, you would have been better off just getting your butt out of there, get a couple yards, get down, look at coach like, hey, coach, sorry, we'll talk about it in the film room. But you just can't, you just, the negative plays kill you, and especially with how Michigan wants to play. They want
Yeah.
no negative play. They want to be ahead of the sticks. They don't want, the 2nd and 15, the holding penalties, those types of things. Like you just, that's just not how Michigan wants to operate. Whether you think they're equipped to handle it or not, they don't want to operate that way. So it'll just be important, and like agree with what you said. Like I think for JJ, that'll be big on just his next level progression of how can I be strategic with my runs, right? And some of it is, we've watched it, that inside the zone read plays where you look at it and you're like, man, it looked like you just kind of predetermined and handed that thing off. Like, man, you're athletic. Like you can, you know what I mean? Like read it, right? I'm not telling you to be crazy out here and,
Right.
oh man, I can outrun, the
No,
the
you can't.
JT Tola Mulu, whatever that DN's name. That dude's a
You
monster,
can't.
right? I'm not telling you try to outrun him, but if he's crashing in on Donovan Edwards, pull that thing out of there, get you, 7, 8 yards, get out of bounds or slide, and we're off and running. You know what I mean? Like so, I think that's definitely going to be his next step, is in his maturation, his growth of, like you said, potentially being the number one pick in the NFL.
Yeah. Um, Michigan man Jason brought up Wisconsin just beat Oklahoma State. Wasn't TCU losing to Oklahoma State? Um, well, for one, be careful with that. I'm not really big onto cross comparison games. Or what how his opponent played versus that team and stuff like that, because it's all different. Um, what I would say is fact of the matter is TCU did end up beating Oklahoma State, and they're here for a reason. And even though I can't come up with a realistic situation in which Michigan loses to TCU. Like that, I think it's actually going to happen. I do respect them, and I think that they are a formidable opponent, um, and that they play with an energy and with a spirit that um, lends to them just not quitting, right? And I would be shocked if Michigan breaks them early in that game. I think TCU is going to fight as long as they can. And if Michigan does their own self-inflicted mistakes, they can find themselves in a very uncomfortable situation, as will all of us who's watching and rooting for
I agree. They are a formidable opponent, and obviously, I'm pretty sure the Michigan players and coaches don't watch our show. But if they did, what I would say is don't have the Ferris mindset here. Don't have that type of mindset because when it gets down to the end of the season, anybody can be beaten. Like you
them.
telling me if JJ throws two pick sixes, that Michigan still is a guaranteed to win this game? Like no, Max Duggan is a more than capable quarterback of winning this football game. Quentin Johnson is a really good wide receiver. I would argue outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., he's probably going to be the best wide receiver Michigan has faced this year.
Oh yeah.
So it's not as if like there's nobody's on it. Like, and I hesitate to even say this because it's just it's not doesn't sound great. But to me, with the Cincinnati game last year, like I told you, Alabama's going to win this game. They're going to take the air out of the ball. There's no way we're losing this game. And it's similar in the 1-4 matchups that Alabama's had with Notre Dame, where I'm like, dude, they don't have a shot, man. Like we're doing our best to get out of this freaking game healthy. That's all it is. Like, and I don't think Michigan can have that same mindset in this game. Like it's not that much of it's not that far of a separation. It's far, but it's not that far to where Michigan can just do no wrong. Like, oh man, we got them. Like, no big deal. Listen, if you come in here, rolling out of bed. Sorry, Fierce. Hold on, let me tell you. But if you just roll out of bed thinking that you know what I mean? Like, hey, we got this. Like, we've seen this happening at all levels of football, high school, college, pros, where it's just like, oh yeah, man, we're good. Heck, we just saw it for our freaking Detroit Lions. Thought they were just gonna roll into
We're
Carolina
not doing that
and
right now. No,
just
like
went.
that's
Yeah, man, got to do that right now because it's recent. Like we thought we were gonna roll in there and be good to go. Man, this team stinks. Blah blah blah. And we got our butts kicked. So it's just all I'm saying is respect your opponent. If Michigan plays their game, they'll be just fine. But they need to play their game. That's all I'll say.
yeah, well, yeah. You got another thing is that TCU and Michigan as well. I mean, both teams have been game planning for each other for almost a month. Okay, so there are no surprises. Really, they know what you're going to do. So no, look, um, it just comes down to execution. It really does. So if you do not execute, yeah, that you could beat yourselves. Um, it's just one of those things where what's more likely to happen, and to me it comes down to the physicality. And I know we had what's her name, Melissa, I believe, a few weeks ago on with this. I just don't see TCU having the physicality long for 60 minutes to stay with Michigan. Look, you can come out, you can be pumped up before the game, you know, you're excited. You hear people saying you can't stick with this team physically, right? You understand this narrative versus Big 12 teams and all that stuff. So you can come out and be jacked up, and if you're TCU, and maybe you come out with a really good first quarter, right? You're like, no, we can't. We're not soft, and I'm not calling them soft, but like we can't hang with these guys. But the problem is for them, and for a lot of teams, even really tough quote unquote Big Ten teams, is that Michigan starts to really wear you down late third quarter, fourth quarter. That's when them legs, when you're not built for that, and Michigan really is, that's when you start leaning. They start leaning on you and leaning on you. And then you're just not built to be able to have the meat up front to in the depth behind that. To just to long term, and that's when you start seeing guys like Donovan Edwards break loose for long runs because you just don't have it. You don't have it. And so that's why I can't see it, man. And I'm just not sure TCU's offense is going to get enough explosive plays and enough scoring. Um, I think the Michigan defense should keep them under 25 points. But we'll see. But I just don't see it, man. I think Michigan should be able to control the line of scrimmage. I really do.
Well, I see a lot of people talking about kind of the 3-3-5 defense and that it's not going to work against Michigan. And listen, I'm young enough to remember when Michigan played an Army team, if I'm not mistaken, and that Michigan defense played consistently every snap with three safeties, three guys about 12 yards from the line of scrimmage. And that Michigan defense dominated that Army offense. Like it's not like there's a lot more that goes into it. Just saying that you're a 3-3-5 like defense is not enough to say like that's it. Let's wash our hands of it. Like let's move on because they run a 3-3-5 defense. Like that's not how it works. Like I saw that Michigan team do that to that Army offense, and I'm trying to think, was that 2018? It's been pretty recent. But like I said, it was just kind of it was odd. Everybody was upset. Like, why do we have three safeties and blah blah blah? And that defense played their butts off.
You're talking about Army's defense was a 3-3-5, or
No, I'm saying Michigan's defense against Army's offense lined up with three safeties, against Army. Yeah, and they dominated.
yeah. Well, it's just one of those things where look, guys. I think we're all in lockstep that on paper it doesn't make a lot of sense for TCU to win this football game, but hey, that's why you got to play the game, right? Um, I think it also helps that Michigan. I don't want to see him much unless he's kicking PATs. I don't want to see any Jake Moody unless he's kicking PATs, right? So also, let's get to the red zone and let's convert. Because we know that TCU they probably would get a couple points here and there. Keep the pressure on them and score touchdowns. Okay, please. I swear I don't.
You say that, but I mean, we've also seen games where the red zone offense wasn't, it wasn't clicking. Like we've seen
We
that.
saw it in person.
So it's not, it's not like it. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure that we are approaching this the correct way, as if we have anything to do with the outcome of the game. But just, you know what I mean? Like, if Michigan is respecting their opponent, come out, play their game, I think they'll be just fine. If they come out thinking that, oh, a 3-3-5 that'll never work against us, we're good. I'm not quite sure that's the case. Like you got to execute. You got to put in the work. You got to do it. You got to handle stuff on the field. Like that's the way that it works.
Yeah, yeah. It's man, I can't believe it. We're getting so close, and you know, um, it's weird, man. Just 2 years ago this time, I never would have thought that we'd be in our second college football playoff and have a legitimate chance to win a national title. Um, it's like it's like I'm in it, and I don't think I'm really grasping how the rare situation we have.
If only somebody preseason like could have like
Oh, please,
predicted or thought that Michigan would have like a real chance at a national championship. God, I wish we had that person on this channel, but
Well,
I
I
don't
didn't
know.
think that Alabama's going your school was going to fall flat on their face. I thought they'll be a juggernaut up there with Georgia, and I thought,
And none of that would have anything to do with Michigan's position in the college football playoff.
well, I mean, it maybe yeah, maybe not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I will say this though, this is a grand opportunity for Michigan because we do know that just in general, Big Ten teams are behind the SEC. So, I would anticipate Alabama getting their stuff together. We know what Georgia is. Um, we don't know what Brian Kelly's going to do at LSU if this is a start or something going special there as well. So this is a grand opportunity. I think there's no doubt about it that Michigan right now is probably the king of the Big Ten. They're the top program in the Big Ten right now. But in terms of winning a national title, You called it, man. This may be their best shot, and it may be their best shot in a long time.
Hey, man, I just preseason to me. Essentially, what I looked at was the the historic season you had last year. Had a lot of guys coming back, and you just had a great opportunity. That's just what I saw. Assumed that JJ was going to be QB1, which, just for the record, I want to get this on the stream. You said Cade was going to be the starter. So I just
Are we
want
going to do
that
this now?
to
Are we going
no,
to do
I
this
just
now?
want to make sure. No, it's like late in the season, so this was early happening. So I just want to make sure that the record is clear for the
You just want to
record.
receive right now? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go off.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I am. I just want to make sure things are clear. I thought that you had a good shot at getting to the national championship. You did not. You thought actually where we are today. You thought this was as far as Michigan could possibly go. You thought that. You said that. You actually said that on the record. And then also we predicted who would be QB1. Your prediction was Cade. Mine was JJ. Neither here nor there, but just wanted to make sure that was clear for the record. But it is when you look at the last 2 years, it's been incredible. I mean, outside of Georgia, there's been one other team that you could look at and say has had a better 2 year run, and that's the team who won the national championship last year, who hasn't lost a game since the conference championships last year. Like that's it, right? But even for Michigan, I mean, you lost in the college football playoff, but outside of that, you lost one game last regular season. This year, haven't lost a single game in a regular season. So it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible the 2 year run that Michigan's been on, especially coming off of that COVID year, because it was brutal. It was brutal in so many ways.
Yeah, man, that was rough. That was rough. I mean, I was like, get Jimmy out of here. Like I was done. I was done. Yeah, you know me, Des. I was saying I was done with Jimmy back probably like 4 or 5, going back 4 or 5 years. Like I was probably pretty much done after 2000. Actually, I know I was done after 2018, the 60 burger game. That broke me. That broke me. Um, that was it. I was pretty much done then. And man, it's incredible that we're here. And I see some people talking about Corum. I actually hope, guys, that Corum does not stay. For that kid standpoint. Of course, as a Michigan fan, I want him here. He makes us better, but for his sake, and to get paid and probably his best his prospect his own prospects, he should go to the NFL. He should go to the next level. All that can happen is his to me coming back is that his draft stock drops. Um, for a multitude of reasons. What if he's not quite the same guy? What if yeah, and you got the different running back prospects next year, right? Including his running mate and Donovan Edwards, who could be leaving next year as well. No, I don't think he should come back. I want the best for that guy. And I just think that his best draft stock is now. Even though it may have dropped slightly due to the injury, um, it doesn't seem like it was an. I don't think it was an ACL. I feel like that would have been announced if it was ACL. Plus, if it was an ACL, he probably wouldn't have played at all. Um,
I
so
think it was meniscus. I think was the
which is
the
minor,
diagnosis.
which is minor. Which is minor. So I don't know, man. I really I really think he should, go to NFL, as opposed to coming back and his draft stock potentially drops. I mean, all it would take is another injury, and his draft stock will significantly drop if he came back for another year.
Well, what is it that Blake Corum can show in the 2023 football season for college football that he hasn't already shown?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? He's shown that I could be the bell cow because we had Donovan Edwards was banged up most of the year. And Blake was terrific. I mean, he was, to me, he was a Heisman Trophy candidate going into the Illinois, basically until he just was gone, until he was injured. I thought he had a real shot at the Heisman Trophy. I just don't think there's anything additional he can show. Now, if he's talking something, hey, I want to bring a national championship to Michigan and do that, that's something totally separate. But if we're just talking NFL draft stock and just hopeful,
Yeah,
I just don't understand what he's gonna do in 2023 that
to
he has
raise
not
it.
already shown the evaluators of what he can do.
Right. I just think, especially we're talking about a running back here, guys. Especially for a running back, you know, even when you're good. I mean, for God's sakes, as Lions fans, me and Dad's being Lions fans, we have a very good, talented running back in DeAndre Swift, who was drafted out of Georgia in the second round. And when he's been healthy, which has been on a rare occasion throughout his career in Detroit, he's fantastic, right? And he was a second round pick, and we're trying to, a lot of us are debating on, should the Lions pay him, right? It's hard to get now that big the real payday in the NFL, which is that second contract. So I don't know, man. I really like the kid. I want the best for him. He has a great story. Um, is there, Mark? I see what you're saying. Get your degree, come back.
He can get his
Absolutely.
degree in any year, man. He doesn't have to do that now. He can do that in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
And if he gets hurt one more time, guys, especially for a running back, I'm telling you, like it's not like he's a quarterback where if he sustained another injury, oh, well, he's talented, he'll still get a shot. I mean, there's a chance if he got hurt again, if he came back to Michigan next year, that he might not even get drafted at all. Like that's how quickly and disposable that NFL views running backs now. They're a dime a dozen. No matter how talented you looked in college. I mean, Des, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Guys can go into his statistics, but wasn't Chuba Hubbard a really good running back at Oklahoma State? Wasn't he a fourth round draft pick? But Chuba was really good at Oklahoma State, and he just had a really good day versus Lions. A coincidence, coincidence, but I'm just saying, man. I just, I don't know. For him, I just think it's best, go ahead, kid, leave, get your money, and take care of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the degree thing that can happen in all the time. Um, he can do that in 5 years. He can do that in 6 years. But like you said, if he and let's say he has something else happen with that knee. Like, what if
Yeah.
something just flares up and he has to miss 2 to 3 games? That's not gonna be looked upon in a good
No,
light to
not at
where
all.
it's like, man, because guess what? Now all of a sudden you're injury prone. Forget about the time that you had before you were
Oh yeah.
hurt. Guess what? You hurt your knee in that Illinois game, and you missed 2 or 3 games in
You have
the
that heavy workload. So now I'm already thinking, i.e., on Johnson at Auburn. Like I'm already counting like how many carries you've had on the college level, and that all matters, man. That carries over to the NFL. Running back carries from college it carries over to the NFL. And Antoine, I see your point. I really do. It's not that third and fourth round is a lot of money, but you run the risk of, let's say that's his ideal sweet spot now, third to fourth round slot. I would lean more towards third round. I thought he could have been maybe in a second round pick, but let's say third and fourth round is that sweet spot. He's going to definitely get drafted somewhere there. All that can happen, in my opinion, is that if he comes back, is that he will drop. There's no way he can go above that. This is I don't see it. So if you can only hurt that sweet spot by coming back, then why risk it? If for him, as a Michigan fan, I would love to have him, but for him, I just don't see the benefit for his career. I really don't.
Well, in I looked it up. So second round picks are anywhere from 1.5 to 950K. Third round picks 899 to 818. Uh, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Blake Corum's not making that in NIL money. Am I just crazy and haven't seen it? I don't think he's making that much money in NIL. So you're talking, and you're also talking like, okay, let's just say for sake of discussion, Blake Corum has 7 years of high level football left in his career. right?
Yeah.
Well, if that is the case, he should want to get to the NFL as soon as possible because okay, let's say he makes 900K on his first contract. Well, if you're not a, if you're a I believe second round pick past that, there is no a fifth year option. So you got a 4 year deal. I mean, we could agree. I think Blake Corum will be very valuable in the NFL.
Yeah.
So then you're talking about getting to a second contract where you can make 10, 12, who knows, $20 million on a contract, and now you are talking about generational, you know what I mean, generational wealth.
Uh,
I mean, Antoine saying that with I don't believe that. I could be wrong, but I don't believe that.
Heck of a gig. I mean, if that's the case, he'll definitely be making more than he's making in the NFL initially. That's for sure. Um, I'll say this, and I'll say this real quick, and then I'm pretty much I've spoken my piece for tonight. Unless you have more to add, Des. Um, I want to address something that Mark said because I always kind of chuckle when people say things like this because it sounds very sports movie esque. You know, where was it? Mark, where did you put that, Mark? It was about him being about the team. Corum had 2 rushing attempts versus OSU for 6 yards on the torn left meniscus. This dude is not about himself. He's all about the team. The team will help him make the call and family. Well, Mark, for one, partly I agree with you. I do think he is a team player by all means, but this is business, right? So there's team aside, and then there's business. And honestly, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, like I would say, I was ironically, guys, there's a really good documentary on HBO for Shaq. He just did. He's doing a documentary on his life, and his college coach, Dale Brown. Shaq, I'm not gonna bore you guys too much, but it's a good watch. Watch it. But anyway, during Shaq's last year at LSU, because he was so big and dominant, players were following him very, very hard, essentially giving him flagrant fouls. He was just too big to stop. And Dale Brown was so frightened and concerned about him losing out on big time money by getting potentially hurt that he went to Shaq. He did a press conference in which he told everyone, I'm going to tell Shaq and his family that he needs to go to the NBA right now because I do not want to see him get hurt. Like he looked out for his player. And I just think I understand a guy can be about the team, but when a guy like Blake Corum, who has given everything he can give to me, there's nothing else that kid can do for this program. He's given everything that you can possibly want and give to this team. The team should do right by him and recognize, look, we want you to to have the best professional career you can have, right? Because once you're done playing this game, son, what you probably going to make as a professional is going to be your peak earnings of your life, most likely. Let's just be honest here. So I want you to do as much as you can. So that's the way I look at it, guys. There's the personal side, which he loves University of Michigan. He loves his teammates. He wants to do everything he can for them. Then there's the business side, and I just would caution people like you, Mark, who have that view that you have to sometimes remove the emotion out of decisions like that.
Yeah, and it can be difficult to do, but I mean, listen, guys, we are all fans, which is short for fanatic. And if we're going to be truly honest about it, in 3 to 4 years, if Blake Corum is out of the league, not playing football anymore, and no longer at Michigan, how many people are going to be, footing money or creating a GoFundMe to get Blake Corum paid? Nobody is. Like, let's be honest about it. Like, so I want him to make the best decision for him. If he were asking my advice, I would say go. And that's the end of it.
Yep.
That's kind of just what it is. Score prediction.
Well, I'll take Michigan 35, TCU 21. They get a late touchdown to probably, I don't know what the spread is, but I'm going TCU gets a late touchdown, gets them 21, 35, 21 Michigan.
I'm going to go 42-24 Michigan wins. So I also don't know what the spread is. Don't care too much. But, yeah, that's my prediction. I'm with Michigan man Jason right here. So Yeah, we'll see what I think. I think I was a little off. I was 42, but nonetheless, yeah. I mean, I'm expecting Michigan to win, and we'll see what happens. But we will be here post game, so probably around 7, 8 o'clock before Georgia Ohio State kicks off, and we'll be talking about it. So hopefully we'll be talking about a Michigan win and also heading to the national championship.
Oh yeah, baby. See you guys Saturday. Should be a fun, hopefully safe New Year's Eve day. And we'll see you guys after the game.
Peace.
Peace.